Hello everyone. In this video we are going to see what is EKS, then how to create EKS cluster, and moving forward we will see what Nginx Ingress controller is, and then how to deploy application over EKS and how to expose it. So first of all, what is EKS? EKS is AWS managed service which is used to create Kubernetes cluster over AWS infra. So if you see this architecture here, we will see AWS Fargate and AWS EC2. So either we can use worker means for worker nodes we can use EC2, or else we will deploy our application as a over serverless containers. So once we create EKS cluster, then we have to decide whether we have to go with Fargate or we have to go with EC2. Once cluster is created, we can connect to the cluster from our local and run Kubernetes apps over it. So there are many ways to create EKS cluster. Few of them are EKS CTL using AWS console, using AWS CLI with the Terraform, CloudFormation as well. EKS CTL also use CloudFormation behind the scenes. So let's start and see how can we create with the EKS CTL. So first of all, what we have to do, we have to install EKS CTL. So you can go to this page, EKS CTL/installation, and install as per your requirement. This is for Unix, this is for Windows. You can install it in Docker as well, and third-party installers are there as well. Like for Mac OS, we can use Brew. For Mac ports, we can use Port. For Windows with Chocolatey. There are various ways to install it. Once you install it, then what you can do, you can create one file EKSCTL config. You can put this data inside it, like API version, kind, metadata, node groups, and this is the basic data which is needed to create a cluster. We will see more complex EKSCTL file in this same video, but yeah, once we create this, then what we can do is we can do dry run. So if we do EKSCTL create cluster -f, that is for file name, and once we do dry run, it will show the exact EKSCTL config file which is going to be applied, because this is just the file and this is the all the default values which it takes. So if you see, it starts from here. So I just pass this file, and if I did do dry run, then I got this one. So if you see, then here API version, whatever I define, these values will remain same, but all other values, it will use them as default. It uses availability zone by itself, that is 1C and 1B, US East 1, because I provided the reason there only. Then it uses IAM resource controller policy as a true. With OIDC, it is keeping it as false. If you want to keep it with OIDC, then you can enable it. You see the version, it will be 1.25 of EKS, but if you want to override it, then you can pass it there. You can make it 1.26 or 1.27 as well. AMI family, it will use Amazon Linux. If you want to use your desired one, then you can put under node groups in the same file here. You can put Ubuntu, you can put Windows, whatever you want. Container runtime, it will use containerd. Desired capacity 10 nodes will be there, and much other values, many more. So if you see instance type, it will launch t3.micro. If you want to update, you can update it here. Volume size, and all other default values are there. So one thing which we generally require is VPC. So it will create a VPC by its own. If you see here, it will auto allocate. It will not auto allocate IPv6 it as it is false, but it will create a VPC with CIDR this. Private access will be false for cluster, public access will be true, and it will create one NAT gateway. If you want to override the VPC, then you can, and you want to use your own, then you can pass that as well in the EKS ETL. So let me show you how to check what else we can pass there. So you can simply go to EKS ETL, create and managing clusters. So this is the basic file which I'm using currently. But if you see here, you can use your existing VPC as well. And this is for dry run. And yeah, if you want to add many more things, then you can check them here. Let's suppose you want CloudWatch logging, then you can click here and it will provide you the flags which we can use. Either you can put entry type like this, and you can put it simply here in this YAML. So after node groups, you can put starting from here. You can put log retention period as well. So this is the complete example. If you need something else, if you want EKS fully private cluster, then you can keep it as true. If you want to add add-ons, if you want to use Fargate, then you can use this one. Here it is Fargate profile. Many more things are there. If you want to use spot instances, which is cost efficient, then you can use this one. You can put instance type here, name here, and this is spot true. So if you keep spot true, then it will launch spot instances. So once your file is created, you can do EKSCTL create cluster -f and the file name, that is the YAML. This is in YAML format, and if you apply it for, so EKSCTL is prerequisite for that, and AWS is required as well. AWS CLI is prerequisite for that as well. So if you see, it will take around 30 minutes and it is creating the CloudFormation stack. So if you go to your AWS, so basically CloudFormation is also infrastructure as a code, similar to Terraform, but benefit of Terraform is it is multi-cloud, but CloudFormation is for AWS only. So if you see, EKSCTL test cluster create is in progress. It is started at that time. If you go inside that, there are events as well which are ongoing. So it will take around 30 minutes. In EKS as well, you may see that at moment. Yeah, it is there. If you see, Kubernetes version is 1.25, that we keep it as default. We can override that as well. So it is in progress, so it will take around 30 minutes. If you see, after 30 minutes, cluster is ready, and if you go to CloudFormation and refresh the page, then you can see it is create complete. So usually it create one cluster and the node groups which we put in the EKSCTL. If you go to clusters, then the cluster is active now. We can go to that. This is the API server endpoint for that cluster. This is OIDC URL. This is cluster ARN. this to the cluster, then you can provide those you can add those policies to this role. If you go to resources, then we can see here pods, like all the workloads for a cluster. Here networking, services, everything is there. We can check these things with kubectl as well. If you go to compute, then we can see all the pods and nodes here which got created. So if you see, 12 nodes gets created. This is the default one. So it is because if you see here, in the one which I created, we put 10 desired for one node group and 2 for other node group. So 12 total nodes are there now. If you go to networking, then we can see here the VPC which got created now. These are the subnets. This is the cluster security group. 2 security group got attached. One is additional and one is cluster level. This is IPv4 only, like cluster IP service. And if you see, this is public. So API server endpoint, we can have public, public and private. If you see here, so there can be three. Those are not here, but yeah, three type of API server endpoints can be there. Public means you can connect to the cluster from anywhere, from your system, from any EC2 instance, like with or within or without VPC. For private, it is you can only connect from the VPC. So you have to create one instance inside VPC, and then you can run kubectl command from there only. From outside, it will keep throwing error. Here we have add-ons. If you have added any add-on, then it will be visible here. These are the access configuration, IAM related. This is related to monitoring. If we added anything, any scrapers for log, like for Prometheus or for Loki, we can add some other as well, like Logistas, Kibana. This is upgrade insight. This is for upgradation of the cluster, EKS cluster. This is update history. This cluster is not updated even once, so no update history. And these are the tags which got attached to the cluster. So EKS ETL add these tags by default. So now what we have to do, we can connect to this EKS cluster from our local. So let's see how to do that. So as AWS CLI is already there on our system, so command I need is AWS EKS update. First of all, we can see how many clusters are there in our region. So AWS EKS list clusters. So only one cluster is there, and this is for the default region, that is US East 1 for me. Now so for this, the prerequisite is kubectl as well. So for installing kubectl, you can go to kubectl CLI, or by default kubectl is CLI only. So kubectl is CLI for Kubernetes. So you can download it where it is. Yeah, we can use this AWS doc for that. So you can simply run these commands. If you have to install on Mac, Linux, Windows, ARM64, so you can simply run these commands and it will install kubectl on your system. And this is the command for updating the kube config. So what you have to do, AWS EKS update kube config -name, the cluster name, that is dash -cluster for us, And then if your cluster is in another region, then you can put this region as well. Meanwhile, we can see the VPC which got created. So EKS ETL usually create means VPC by prefixing EKS ETL to that, and even tags got added here. So this is the CloudFormation tag using which it got created, and these are the others like YDC is not enabled, cluster name, this is cluster name as well, this is EKS ETL version, this is stack name, and this is VPC name. So as I ran that command, it is taking time. Usually it don't take time. Let me run it again. It would be the internet problem as well, because it won't take more than 5 seconds. Let me check whether CLI is working or not. So it is working. Yeah, it is done. So if you see, it shows added new context. So what it do is it add context for the cluster to this file. That is the default file for kubectl for kubeconfig. So if I go to this file, then I will see this cluster there. If you see, this cluster is there. I have many more clusters as well there, because those are my other clusters. So if I do kubectl get pod here, now it will start showing the Kubernetes pods and like Kubernetes workload. So no resource found in default namespace, as we haven't launched any pod yet. If I do kubectl get ns, so ns is short name for namespaces. So there are 4 namespaces now by default. Now as a part of this, so what we have to do, we have to create this Nginx Ingress controller, so that we can expose our application over internet with the help of Ingress. So now what we can do is I keep one I have one repo where I keep the Nginx Ingress controller. So you can simply go to this URL and download this, or else you can copy it or download it, and then you can create one file. You can name it as nginx controller.yml. You can paste it. So what it will do is it will directly create nginx ingress controller over your cluster. You can use multiple ways. One way is nginx official document. So this is nginx, this is created with the help of nginx official document as well, but here I like combine all the manifests. If you go to Nginx Ingress controller, that is official over official site. So we can have multiple ways to install it using Nginx Ingress, like using manifest, or we can install with Helm as well. So there are those. So if I go with manifest, so I can see like cloning this, then apply this. So what I did is I combined all these files, so you can simply use it. But in this also you have to make few changes. If I search for this, then you have to add one proxy real IPCIDR, as well as you have to add this ARN for your certificate. So first of all, you have to create one certificate for your domain, for which you have to create use Nginx Ingress, and then you can use that ingress. So let me log into Cloudflare as well, and let me attach one certificate to it. So basically why we are attaching this ACM is, uh, moving forward when we deploy our application, let's suppose we deploy one game application there, so we have to expose it publicly over a domain. Let's suppose it is game.masterops.xyz. So with the help of Nginx Ingress, we will route the traffic, as well as we will manage the HTTPS, that is SSL. So for creating SSL, you need domain name as well as the AWS account where you are requesting it. So let's suppose, let me do it for star.masterops.xyz. So here I'm using star, it means that it is wildcard. So anything which I use before dot star means dot, it will treat it as under SSL. Okay, I created it. Now I just need to refresh the page once, then it will start showing here CNAME. I can go to my Cloudflare account. If you are keeping your domain over Route 53, then you can attach directly from here. Create records in Route 53. It will add records there. Let me add one record there. Type is CNAME. CNAME name is this. CNAME value is this. If you see it is appending masterops.xyz here, so you can remove it because by default Cloudflare will attach it as well. You can keep this default. You can put the comment here is CM4. Within few minutes now it will get validated. This CIDR you have to put your VPC CIDR here. So meanwhile let me edit it. Control W CIDR, what is here? And this is SSL. So once this Nginx Ingress controller is created, it will launch one load balancer, that will be network load balancer for here. You can change it to ALB as well. For that you just have to update this line. Instead of NLB you can put ALB here. Let me use the ARN. Control X, Y, enter. Once certificate gets validated, we can simply apply this Nginx controller. So let's go through the file as well once so that we can see what it will do. First of all, it will create one namespace, that is Ingress namespace. Then it will create service account as well. It will create RBAC as well. Multiple RBACs will be there. It will create this as well, role bounding as well, and it will create one Nginx means load balancer service as well. If you see, type is load balancer. Multiple will be there, but one is load balancer, others will be cluster IP, and make one deployment as well, that is for controller. It looks it's taking too much time now. Let's cross check once whether SSL means this CNAME is added or not. Okay, so if you see, certificate is issued. Now what you can do is simply I added a key for alias for kubectl, but yeah, let me try complete kubectl apply -f nginx controller. Namespace is created, service account is created, another one is created. Now RBAC is creating RBAC. Config map is created as well, service is created, and deployment is created as well. So it's facing, couldn't expected this. Let's see what remain pending. So it created this deployment, that is Nginx Ingress controller, Ingress Nginx controller. Let me open that Ingress and VS Code first. Okay, it would be this, as I copied it, so it copied by mistake, like in the new line. This as well, that is YAML issue. If I save it, apply it again, so the ones which got created earlier, those will remain unchanged. Job got created, ingress class gets created as well. Say if I do kubectl get po hyphen, that is po is abbreviation for pods, so we can use po only hyphen and ingress nginx. So these are completed. It means whatever needed for these jobs is done. Now the controller is in creation process. So if I do kubectl get svc is short name for services. If you see, load balancer is created. Now if you go to AWS and search for load balancer, you can see one load balancer there. Let's see whether pod got created or not yet. Okay, so pod is in running stage as well. Load balancer is created as well. We will see once it loads. So after that, what we can like, the last thing pending is a deployment of an application. So let's move ahead and deploy one application and expose it with Ingress, Nginx Ingress that we created just now. So let me take the example of the application which Nginx usually provide. Uh, Let me clone that. So this is the load balancer which got created. It is of type network. Name is similar to the DNS name, like this till this. If you try to access it, it will show nothing. It will just throw error. This is showing this because certificate is added, but not for this domain. So it is showing not secure, but over HTTPS. If you see certificate not added means not valid, then you can see this is for this uh, domain, like certificate is valid for anything dot mushdrops dot xyz. So even if I could do this, then it will show an error. Yeah, 404 not found because we haven't pushed anything over Ingress. Uh, let's deploy that 248 application. So this is the default application which AWS provide after adding Ingress. So let's deploy it. Let's take time. Let's go through this first. What it provided is it create one namespace, then it will make one deployment for this app. It will create one service, that is node port. We can make this cluster IP as well. We will make it cluster IP, and then it will set up one ingress. So here ingress class name is ALB, that is for ALB ingress, but we set up Nginx Ingress, so we will update it. Let me make it cluster IP, or leave it so that it will take default. We don't need to provide these annotations. It would be Nginx only. If I do wait, let me provide the host as well there so that it will run over the host. So we have to update this. Let's keep it 248 dot kubectl apply -f 248. Okay, it throw error for host because in our file host is not at the correct place where it should be. Let's change that. So under roles it should be like this, control K. Yeah, it should be like this. Path type prefix, backend service name, this. Namespace unchanged, deployment unchanged, service unchanged, and ingress gets created. So if I do kubectl get pod -n, what was the namespace? Game -2 for it. All pods are up and running. Service is created there as well. If I do kubectl get ing is short name for ingress. So this is created as well. So now what I have to do, I have to add this address that is for the load balancer which got created with the ingress. I have to add that for this host, for this domain. So if you see, if I try to access it without adding it, it will throw error. This site can't be reached. But once I add it, I just have to add the initial one, that is the subdomain, because domain is masterops.xyz. So it will be 2048.masterops.xyz. I added it as cname, proxy disabled. I saved it. It will be up within 300 seconds. That is the default TTL for Cloudflare. Boom, it's up. So if you see, your application is running fine. Whatever it is. So this application is running now. And if you see, the SSL is also there. If you see, SSL is attached to it, it is Amazon provided. So that's it. In the further, for further, what we can do is we can set up Helm and other things. So in the coming lectures, what we will say how to set up EKS with Terraform, and then how to deploy application with Terraform, and moving forward we will move to Helm as well, and then we will see how to use customize as well.